Hallmark Cards presents Mother's Day at Walgreens. Celebrate every mother figure in your life with a Hallmark card at Walgreens. Show how much she means to you and how deeply she's loved. A Hallmark card is the perfect way to say thank you for all she does. Don't forget, Mother's Day is Sunday, May 10th. Visit Walgreens today to find the perfect Hallmark Mother's Day card and make her feel truly special. Mother's Day means Hallmark cards at Walgreens.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spettin, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on tonight's episode, we're going to break down the Major League debut of right-handed pitching prospect Trey Gibson before getting into the state of the Orioles right now as we get into early May. But first, this episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom coffees are the delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ Bars, 8 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. All IQ Bar ingredients are clean label certified entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. All IQ Bar products are packed with clean, delicious ingredients that keep you physically and mentally fit, like magnesium, lion's mane, and more. With over 25,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Their Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. IQ Bar has become part of my daily routines, whether it's starting my morning with IQ Joe, grabbing an IQ Bar or IQ Mix to refuel or rehydrate after a hard workout. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64,000. Text MLB to 64,000. That's MLB to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. And of course, if you're watching here on YouTube, you can get that information right there on the lower third of our episodes. Now we'll get into Trey Gibson's debut. Gibson got the spot start for the Orioles on Sunday in Game 3 of their 4-game set at Yankee Stadium. And while the right-hander did hang a couple of middle curveballs that resulted in home runs, overall, I think the effort could be described as solid. He lasted 4 2/3 innings, giving up 3 runs on 4 hits, including the 2 homers with 2 strikeouts and 2 walks. It was officially no decision for Gibson, as the game was tied 3-3 when he was pulled. The Orioles, of course, went on to lose by a final of 9-3, thanks to some late inning meltdowns. But overall, I think that given the very tough circumstances where Gibson has to come up, kind of spur of the moment with the Orioles battling some injuries, face a very good Yankees lineup on the road without the best defense that the Orioles could field behind him, by the way, that it actually went pretty well. Nick, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, to stick with just Trey Gibson's performance, he was given an extremely difficult task, not going to lie. Was very nervous for this start. Wasn't going to watch, but then it was going to take a little break. This was the first weekend in a very long time. The calendar wasn't loaded with kids' games, practices, schedules, whatever. So, and the series against the Yankees hasn't gone very well, but Trey Gibson getting the start, of course, I'm going to be tuned in. And I think given the circumstances, ideally this wasn't when he was supposed to come up, but obviously that's never how it works out for any of these young guys, especially someone like Gibson who's pitching well in AAA. His last couple starts down there in Norfolk had gone pretty well, so he knew he had to be called up at any moment. But to go on the road at Yankee Stadium against unquestionably the best team in the American League, I thought if he was nervous, he didn't show it. You mentioned, he put it on a tee for Aaron Judge. It happens. The Ben Rice home run, I believe, was only a home run at Yankee Stadium. I believe it was, I think I remember the broadcast saying, but it was only a home run in one ballpark, that ballpark. So a Mickey Mouse home run to Ben Rice, who, credit to Ben Rice, is the hottest hitter, one of the hottest hitters in Major League Baseball right now when he's on the field. But yeah, he went toe-to-toe with Max Fried. Gibson left the game, as you mentioned, with a 3-3 tie. Fried couldn't find the strike zone to save his life. You have this prime opportunity to win that game in a game where you have a rookie making his MLB debut and set yourself up for a series split here on Monday night. But as expected, the team really fell apart there at the end. But yeah, Gibson battled. I love seeing him. I really love seeing them let Gibson go that third time against Judge. And you could tell Gibson wanted it so badly. Coming off the mound, he did all the talking when Alvarez came out there on the mound. He's patting Alvarez on the back. He's kind of laughing coming off the mound. I loved it. I almost wonder if that was like, without knowing Gibson personally, I just wonder if that was just like, holy crap, what did I just do? Like, I just started a Major League Baseball game, relief that it's over, and this was a game. It was a 3-3 tie. Maybe a little frustration. He didn't get judged there. You could tell he wanted that really badly, and he almost had it. But, yeah, I love that, and I shout out to Mom and Dad, too. I love their interview. I love that part of the game, the sappy side for a moment. Mom talking about she was like ready to vomit when Judge comes up there again. I was like, all of us too. Was it Karen? Yeah, we all felt the same way, but Gibson came through. I know he got optioned again today. That was assumed that was going to happen, but I think there's a lot to be proud of in that start, and I'm excited to see him get back up here in the big leagues.
Yeah, I was impressed. And speaking of the sappy stuff, always loved the videos of them getting the news broken to them by the AAA manager. Always a good time. No different here. I think Gibson showed really well for himself, really poised on the mound. Like you said, I didn't see any nerves. I'm sure they were there, no doubt about it, but just really good poise on the mound. And my number one takeaway is his fastball's not that bad. And I think it can play at the major league level. Obviously, a little amped up. So I think maybe if he's in a regular rotation in the majors, he's not sitting 95, 96 like he was with the four-seamer, a little more 94, 95 with the sinker on Sunday. But and it seems like in the past, he's only been in the system a couple years, but it seems like he is a slow starter when it comes to velocity, and it tends to build up as the season moves along in the warmer weather. So that was good to see. His stuff graded out really well on TJ Stats. The sinker is a 96 stuff plus, which is actually about average. Four-seamer, 103, death ball, 106, cutter, 105, curveball, 104. So 5-pitch mix of average to plus pitches. Spins the ball really well. We knew that already. Fastball was enough, and he mixed his pitches. Like slider / death ball was number one with 27.6% usage. His fastballs each got about 20% usage. Cutter 17%, curveball 16%. So he's really mixing it up, and I think that's what he's going to have to do. He did everything perfectly except hang 2 curveballs right down the middle. One of them, like Nick said, wouldn't have been a home run anywhere else, but it is what it is. The defense most certainly didn't help him or any Orioles pitcher out with this team. That is definitely something that needs to be corrected. EBJ, where are you? Get healthy. We need some real defenders out there. But Trey Gibson, yeah, fantastic debut, I thought, and especially away at Yankee Stadium. Everything against him. Orioles on a 3-game losing streak. Fans already going against Max Fried. Fans already chalking it up as a loss, and he gave them every chance to win that game. Unfortunately, they didn't get the job done. But I am excited to see Trey Gibson get another shot down the line. Hopefully we get healthy and it's not for quite a while, but it was definitely something he can go back down and hang his hat on and try to work his way back up.
Completely agree. And just to go back to something Nick said a minute ago, this was far from ideal. And coming into this season, even just a couple of weeks ago, when I thought about my line of thinking for Trey Gibson and when we could see him in 2026, I wouldn't have been surprised if out of him, Nestor Herman, Levi Wells, 3 guys who are Rule 5 eligible at the end of this year, at AAA now, all pretty strong candidates to debut this season. I wouldn't have been shocked if Gibson was the last of the 3, not because of his talent, but because I thought he would be the guy the Orioles really are developing as a starter. They want to put him up when he's got the opportunity to get innings, get some starts, a few starts in a row at least, even if it's at the very end of the year, just to have that opportunity and keep a consistent routine. But with the way that the depth has been tested so far in the first few weeks of the season, they didn't have the luxury to sit around and do that. So it's understandable why they went to Gibson when they did, and I think that he did a really admirable job. And Bob, you're right. I think that with Gibson's fastball, that's a pitch that tends to get a little bit better as the season goes on. I do think he was amped up yesterday, so those velo readings probably not representative of the pitcher we're going to see over his next few starts in Norfolk, but it does give you a taste of what he has in his arsenal. And the fastball is not just going to be stuck at 93, 94 start after start this season.
And extra encouraging, I think this might have been the top 50 update we did that was only up on our Patreon last week. But when we talked about Gibson, Levi Wells, Cameron Weston, a couple other guys too, a lot of those arms that got up to Norfolk late last year, and you look at the numbers and they weren't that great. There were some struggles. There were some control issues. They've all turned it around through that first month of the year down there in Norfolk. And then to see Gibson immediately, because his last AAA start before that start this weekend in the big leagues wasn't that start where he got removed early because he got taken out by a comebacker. But I guess the last 2-3 starts, you saw the walks come down. They weren't much of an issue. He was pitching really well. And then to see him step up against this Yankees line, it was like there's no debate that it's the Yankees at the top of the AL, and then there's a wide gap, I think, between your next best set of teams. And to go into Yankee Stadium and pitch as effectively as he did, and the key moment for me that got me really excited, which led to just a massive letdown. I can get into that later on when we talk about a different topic, but it was 3-1 Yankees, and then the Orioles come back and get 2 more runs. Was that like the third inning or something? I don't remember the exact inning by inning situation, how that played out, but it was 3-1, then it's 3-3. And what does Gibson do? Gibson comes out next 2 innings, shuts down that Yankees lineup. Like, perfect. This is what we need to see from these guys, from this entire pitching staff, but to see a rookie doing it, I started getting really jacked up. Like, he is really starting to settle in here. And yeah, unfortunately, the end of the game after he left did not go his way, but Grant Wolfram got out of that 5th inning there, and things were starting to look really good, but whatever. Gibson's start alone, like, you know, we know what the holes and maybe limiting factors are in his game. We've talked about that stuff, his entire profile for years now, since he's been in the system. Even if in the big leagues, it was only 1 start, we got to see a lot more, but even if he's like, all right, he could be a really good 4 or 5 in the major leagues. Like, this was a kid that was undrafted out of a mid-major school just a couple of years ago. Where did he pitch? Was opening day last year when he in high A? I don't even think he was in double A. Yeah, he was in high A opening day last year. 1 year later, he's in the big leagues pitching at Yankee Stadium, and he's a top 100 prospect. So, yeah, even if Gibson's only a 4 or 5, maybe that's jumping the conversation there a little bit, but even if long-term down the road he's only a 4 or a 5, like, that's fantastic. A fantastic story for Trey Gibson. So, and I think he's well on that way based on that outing that we saw.
I think it brings me to the next point in this discussion about Gibson before we talk about this Orioles team as a whole, which is what's next for him? What are your expectations for him as he goes back down to Norfolk? You hope that it's going to be a situation where he can stay in one place for a while and the Orioles aren't having to put him on that shuffle, and I'm thinking the Orioles are going to do what they can to avoid that. But where do you guys want to see Gibson perhaps improve or stay the course over the next few months down in Norfolk?
For me, it's just, you know, the sinker being his leading fastball, or at least sharing the load with the 4-seamer, is pretty new this year. So I just want him to learn to be able to command that, especially in on righties. I believe that he struggled pretty much against lefties more so than righties in the minors. So if you want to be able to, I don't know, hammer the curveball, you got to get that down. Can't hang the curveball. I think he knows that. But mainly, I just want the command, to fine tune the command, especially with the new sinker. And I'm sure a splitter or some kind of off speed changeup is going to be the next thing he tinkers with. But let's just hone what we got for now, and in case he needs to be called back up in the next couple months.
Yeah, and as the weather warms up, you know, continue to work deeper into games. I don't have his game log in front of me, so I don't know if he's gone even 6 innings yet this year. When he was in Norfolk, he only had 5 or 6 starts. Anyway, but continue just to work deep into games. Let's show, because I've said for a while now that he's a big guy. Like, he's a big guy who I think could be a workhorse, a guy who could be a solid 4 or 5 for you, who goes out there every 5 days and can give you 6, 7 innings in a big league rotation. I think he's still well on that track. So yeah, just continue to get down there. Like Bob said, keep working on that command, keep getting more and more comfortable with that Major League Baseball. Again, he's already shown improvements. Just continue on that track that he's on. Keep working deeper into games and set yourself up well for when this team, they're going to need you later on in the year again, and build on that outing. So yeah, it was encouraging. Like, it wasn't, 6 innings, 2 runs, quality start, 8 strikeouts. It wasn't full of fireworks and everything, but this team's really sputtering, and he was in a big moment, and he I think he rose to the challenge.
Hallmark Cards presents Mother's Day at Walgreens. Celebrate every mother figure in your life with a Hallmark card at Walgreens. Show how much she means to you and how deeply she's loved. A Hallmark card is the perfect way to say thank you for all she does. Don't forget, Mother's Day is Sunday, May 10th. Visit Walgreens today to find the perfect Hallmark Mother's Day card and make her feel truly special. Mother's Day means Hallmark cards at Walgreens.
Like, I give him a solid grade for that first outing, that first debut, and I think he's going to go back to Norfolk pretty jacked up and ready to get back to the bigs and make him even hungrier to build on that outing and show that he can get through that 5th inning and get through a lineup a 3rd time and go from there.
Honestly, as far as what Orioles fans can expect from him moving forward, as far as transforming from prospect into a starting pitcher in the majors, I think he's doesn't have the ceiling of a Bradish. That's a lot to ask of anyone, but I do think he has similar traits and qualities where he's a big guy. If he's eventually going to sit 94, 96, that'd be amazing, but he can spin the ball. He's really even-keeled on the mound. I don't think he's a guy that's going to unravel in the way that a Dean Kramer can, emotional guy that can let things get away from him at times, but he's always going to be tinkering and adjusting his game. I don't think he's got like that ace level stuff, but I think he's got solid middle of the rotation upside, as far as just like a guy you feel comfortable maybe starting in a playoff series in a few years down the line. Obviously, let's just get him to the majors and have him go 5-6 innings at a time first. But yeah, I think Orioles fans are going to like him. I don't think it's like a Cade Povich where it's like he's so frustrating because all you want is the consistency. I think he's pretty consistent. I think he just needs to really just round out the game a little bit.
I'll get in now to a thought that I had about yesterday's game, because it kind of ties into my issues with this Orioles team right now. So you've got Trey Gibson, a rookie, making his MLB debut at Yankee Stadium. Sunday afternoon game going up against Max Fried, who's one of the best left-handed pitchers in baseball. Now, I completely get, as you're setting your lineup, all right, you're not going to put Dylan Beavers out there. You're not going to put Samuel Basallo out there. But why is Gunnar Henderson on the bench? Especially when said rookie pitcher, Trey Gibson, has had a pretty sinker-heavy approach in Norfolk this year. This is a guy who consistently in the minor leagues is supposed to ground ball rates in the high 40s. You've got to have some semblance of a good infield defense out there, and the Orioles didn't have that yesterday. And as I was watching the game, I kept thinking to myself, I feel like when I've watched the Orioles lose this year, they have found ways to beat themselves. Now, you look at an 11-3 final yesterday, and it looks like it was a blowout. It wasn't a blowout until the very end of the game. And then it just completely unraveled. Up to that point, it was actually very close and very competitive. And that's where I think this team is different than last year's team. Last year's team would lose ugly, and it would start bad, and it would never get better. This team can stay competitive, but then something just throws everything off. If it's a meltdown inning in the field, a bad inning from the bullpen, a couple of base running miscues, whatever it is, it just seems like they find a way to slip on the banana peel in these losses. And it's really frustrating because I think this team is a lot better than its record suggests. But if they can't get out of their own way in these early series against teams that they need to at least be competitive with, it's going to be hard to dig themselves out of a hole.
It wasn't it Kobe at first and Weston Wilson at third.
Yeah.
So like Pete Alonso is legitimately playing like a Gold Glover at first base, and they're not running him out there, and then you're running out a minor leaguer, a quad A guy over at third base. Yeah, in the rookie start. Yeah, good point. Definitely added to yesterday's frustrations for sure.
It's honestly, yeah, it's great point. It's been all season long. We saw the game. Gunnar Henderson gets picked off twice. That's a game he could have won if that didn't happen. There's been plenty of times with Dylan Beavers in center field and looking like a lost puppy out there. It's been the little things have just been probably cost the Orioles at least 2 or 3 games so far this year. And yeah, those things can add up, and it's especially frustrating as a fan, and I'm sure as a manager, as you're watching that. It's not fun to watch right now. I do not think this team has the same issues that last year's team does, other than injuries, which obviously it's an epidemic. It's bad, but that can only be helped so much. I don't think this is a team that has the quit in them that last year's team showed. I don't think it's a clubhouse issue. Everyone seems to be on the same page. It's just like anything that can go wrong will go wrong. They're not helping their own case. When the offense is performing, the pitching is not. When the pitching's performing, the offense is not. The bullpen's pitching great, and then when the bats come alive, the bullpen blows up. It's just so frustrating because I don't think there's any one easy answer out of it other than can't let it snowball. You cannot do that again. For my own sanity, please.
I don't know. I would try to hold it back a little bit and not death spiral here. But my wife's advice is just turn the TV off and let's watch something else. So at least I know I can vent here and you guys can either talk me off a ledge or just feed it, which fine. We can all sulk together. I don't know. First of all, I'm kind of just getting sick and tired. I've said this before, but now it's really starting to irk me. The same exact quotes after every single game. Like, we're working on it. We know we're better than this. It's the same response every single night. And that's not a knock on Alvarez. I have no issue with Craig Alvarez whatsoever. But it's getting tiresome. Everybody's saying the same thing after every single game, and nothing's changing so far. And like Sunday was really the night where, again, ask my wife, yesterday was a breaking point for me. Like, she quickly saw that it wasn't just my normal get jokingly frustrated, laugh it off. It's a bad night. Game gets away in the 7th, 8th inning. Fine. Turn it off for your mental health. Go do something else. Go to bed. Get hyped the next morning. It's a new day. It's a new game. But yesterday was just completely different, where I just kind of hit this wall with this team. You talk about the fielding there. I mean, this is one of the worst fielding teams in baseball, and a lot of the numbers are actually heavily propped up by Pete Alonso and Adley Rutschman, which Adley's had a great year. I love seeing Adley, love seeing his at bats, love watching Pete Alonso play first base. Like, one of the worst defenders at the position for the last couple of years in Major League Baseball. He's turning around. That's great. But when you look at the rest of this lineup, it's just like Gunner's a league average bat. Like, he's 101, 100 WRC plus. He's a league average bat who's striking out a ton. It's a lot of 0-3. He's done. Cowser, Beavers, I mean, the whole lineup, those issues are well documented. Kobe Mayo struggling after that hot September. He's struggling to find his role. He had a couple of good games there with the home runs, but other than that, it's the team can't hit breaking balls or off-speed pitches. They are literally one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in all of baseball. Nobody's great at hitting those pitches, but they are the worst of the worst. And when they do make contact with those pitches, shout out to our old stomping ground, Baltimore Sports and Life. Ben Palmer actually had a piece up today looking at all those numbers about how bad everybody is pretty much. Fastballs, they're great. And you clearly see why, if you're an opposing pitcher, you're an idiot if you throw the team a fastball. The Orioles are giving pitchers no reason to go back to fastballs here.
Last year, wasn't it the opposite? Where we couldn't hit the fastball, but we could crush sliders and whatever.
They're hitting well against fastballs this year.
Yeah, it just seems like, and I saw this on the Discord, and it rings so true. It's like playing a game of rock, paper, scissors with the other team as far as prep goes, and the other team knows what we're going to do every time. Like, I'm sure they're doing great prep work and trying to game plan, but I swear we never do well first time through the lineup. It just seems teams consistently know how to beat us, and I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I really don't know the answer either, because we had that show a few weeks ago where we broke down players that were off to slow starts, and two of them, Samuel Basallo and Pete Alonso, have picked up the pace at the plate since then. And if you had told me after that episode what Basallo and Alonso were going to do over the next few weeks, I would have thought the Orioles would probably at least be 500 right now, somewhere in that mix, especially with the way that Adley Rutschman is hitting. And I know that injuries are part of it, and injuries do tie back to the infield defense, because right now, if Jordan Westburg and Jackson Holliday were healthy, you would have had a situation on Sunday where you're running Weston Wilson out there. But you also have better options in-house. This is why you went out and got Blaze Alexander, was to be able to plug those holes here and there. Jeremiah Jackson, for me, at least as an eye test perspective, has looked a lot better at second this year than he has in the past. So there have been some marginal improvements with the defense, but the problem is that the outfield defense as a whole has not been good. The infield defense will just have these games where it seems like they can't make plays, the plays that they need to make, and that has really set this team back.
Yeah. And even tonight, Adley Rutschman, he has been great. And it's just so indicative before we come on of how the season has gone. Shane Baz, 2-strike, 2-out pitch, runner on second, Aaron Judge is up. Boom, looks like, and it did clip the bottom of the strike zone. Ump calls it a ball. Adley doesn't challenge. Next thing you know, boom, 2-run homer. It's just, that's how this season in a nutshell has been going. And it sucks because coming into the New York series this past weekend, we were 15-16 with a negative 12 or 13 run differential. And then coming into Monday night's game, it was 15-19 with a minus 30 run differential. So, and it looks like tonight's not going well either. Going to be 15-20 heading out of New York. That's pretty rough stuff. One bad weekend can really change your outlook. Hopefully they can turn it around in Miami this week. I will say, though, that thank goodness for the minor leagues, because I've been watching much less Major League Baseball. That's my strategy this year when it's like something incredibly frustrating happens and you blow a lead or you get off to a bad start, an early deficit. I'm going right to the minors and I'm enjoying watching them. And then if I check my phone and the game's close again, I'll turn it back on if my blood pressure has gone down a little bit. So you got to manage that blood pressure this season.
It's more frustrating though, because I feel like the same time last year, I gave up. I threw my hands up. I stopped watching. There was a stretch there, probably 50, 60 games. I did not watch a single game of Orioles Major League Baseball. And that's depressing. That sucks. Because of course, I'm watching every single day. I'm watching Orioles minor league baseball for this show, for content, for articles, for everything we do. That's our niche. That's what we're here for. But we also a couple years ago realize, hey, we can also make this transition. We can also have our little space within the big Orioles, content space here where, we followed these guys so closely throughout their entire career. And now we're seeing a lot more of these guys reach the big leagues. We want to make that little bit of transition as well. But ever since then, I feel like it's when the Major League team has just reverted back to the dark ages here. And it's so maddening this year to me because I feel like, there are a lot of good players on this team, but this team is almost unwatchable a lot of nights. And what is changing? Legitimately, what is changing on the offensive side of the ball? Shout out to Taylor Ward. I will say that. We'll throw some positivity in here. People hate it when we get too negative. People hate that we get too positive. So we'll try to find some balance here. Shout out to Taylor Ward. Yeah, defensively, maybe not a Gold Glover, but he's playing exactly like I said coming into the year that I thought he would have this exact type of season. He's hitting 288, 290 something, just one home run, but he's got 13 doubles. He's walking at an insane rate. He's striking out 10%, 11% less than last year. He's down 15% last year. He's hitting more. He's getting on base. And I said, bat him leadoff. Just get on base, hit the single, hit the double, draw the walk. You've got Gunnar and Pete Alonso behind you. Let them do the heavy lifting. Gunner's not lifting anything. He is. He has what, 7 home runs? But my point with 9 home runs, but how many of those Gunner home runs, legitimately, I don't know. How many of those Gunner home runs meant anything this year? Like, legitimate question, because I feel like most of Gunner's home runs I've watched on like Twitter highlight clips because I've already turned the game off. It's like Chris Paul meme. They're already down 10-1, and Gunner hit a moonshot blast. Like, I don't know,
do
maybe
think there was one earlier in the season where either tied a game or gave a 1-run lead that we ended up winning that game, but that's the only one I could think of.
It's just I don't have any, like, I'm not going back to box scores and looking, but that's just what it feels like. It feels like it's just garbage time home runs from Gunnar Henderson. What is he actually contributing offensively this year so far? I don't know. My frustrations, and I feel like we've talked a lot about the hitting and the fielding, deservedly so. My frustration just boiling over with the hitters on this roster, because I felt like there were so many valid points that you could look at and say there were reasons to be optimistic coming into this season on the offensive front. And like I said, we're not seeing that many changes here offensively. It's a lot of the same stuff. And now it's just double play after double play after double play. But yeah, I mean, pitching is also a major issue as well. I know they had this come to Jesus meeting. Clearly, some people skipped out on that meeting or weren't paying attention when Mr. Jesus was talking there in front of everybody. But I keep going back to the hitting thing. That's what is annoying me the most. The pitching stuff, this team wasn't designed to have Brandon Young and Trey Gibson and Cade Povich be 3/5 year rotation the first week of May. It sucks that Zach Eflin went down in his, first start. Now you've got Kramer with this quad injury. He's going to be out for a month. Trevor Rogers going to be out for, 2 weeks or more. Yeah, a little bit of regression there, some struggles there, but then he doesn't even really get a chance to get back on track because of this flu, whatever it was, which I initially was like, are we sure about that? But then, Bob, you got kids, the death diseases that these kids bring home. I'm like, okay, I buy it, but give him a chance to settle back in here. I don't think Trevor Rogers is going to be the Trevor Rogers that we've seen the last couple of starts. But the point being, this rotation was not built to have 3 of the guys in it now that are in it right now. But it's the hitting side. Like, I go back to this point, and maybe this isn't fair, and I don't know. I'd love to talk to somebody who could speak about this more confidently and have better knowledge about this. But I go back to before the season started, when we talked to John Muley, and he came out with an article about this right after our show, because I think he talked to us afterwards. We were talking about this specific article. Orioles hitting coach Dustin Lin is he worked very closely with Anthony Villa, and Anthony Villa, Orioles director of player development, was a player in the White Sox organization. And a lot of what the Orioles built in terms of their hitting philosophies and what they teach hitters was inspired by Dustin Lin because of Anthony Villa's connection there. What's changed? He came into a new organization, but clearly he came into a very comforting organization. And there's all this talk about more individualized attack plans with hitters and such coming into the year. But I mean, a lot of what these prospects and major leaguers have been taught and preached to comes from Dustin Lin's teachings in the beginning. Now he's the hitting coach on this team. What's being done differently on the player development side, on the day-to-day operations of planning and execution? Is anything differently being done? Is it the same thing? Is it on the players here that just aren't executing and maybe some really tough decisions need to be made now? I don't know. We're all looking for answers, and I'm spitballing and rambling, but it's the offense that's getting to me the most.
Yeah, and it's like you said, where's the evolution, the adaptation? You have to be able, you can't just say, this is what we do and we're not going to change it. Maybe they are. That's what's so frustrating, because I think Elias killed this offseason. He did a fantastic job. I think Alvarez was an amazing hire. I think they do so many things right. I still think our bread and butter, the farm system, is on the come up. I love the way they're handling the talent pipeline, so to speak, the trades they made to go in on the contention window. The frustrating thing is nobody knows what's going on, but everybody will make you think they know exactly what's wrong. It's Elias's fault. It's Alvarez's fault. It's the hitting coach's fault. It's my daughter's fault for walking in the room while I'm talking every single week. It's It's the player's fault. That's the frustrating thing is you don't know. I mean, Kyle Bradish is got Sandy Alcantara syndrome where the command is not there, the stuff is, but he can't hold it. And I'm going to stop talking.
I think it's a good point there, and I think we probably have said our piece for now, at least, about this team's struggles, but hopefully they turn things around when they go to Miami this week. I will just say this real quick before we head into our last segment. This series against the Marlins and the A's, these are games you got to win. Both of them, especially when the A's come to town this weekend. You got to take advantage of that and win these games. And with that, now we will head into our final segment of the night. Last call brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing. Located at 1421 Ridgely Street, Checker Spot is not far from Oriole Park Cannon Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre- or post-game drink this season. And if you don't have tickets to a home game or the Orioles happen to be out of town, Checker Spot is a great place to go and watch the game. They're open 7 days a week with plenty of good food and drink as well as a lot of TVs. And I can tell you firsthand, losses go down a lot easier with a good Checker Spot beer and some Old Bay pretzel nuggets, which come from their kitchen, and they're very good. So be sure to check that out. Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street in South Baltimore, open 7 days a week. And now we'll head into our final segment, which is our usual shout-out of players outside the top 30 portion of our top 50 for something they've done recently, whether it's been a good game, a good week, or just something interesting in their stat line that we want to point out. And I will go ahead and have Nick start us off this week.
Something that doesn't make me drink more. Good performances. My hitter, I've got Colin Tuft. Here we go. Here's my notes on Tuft. I've had a soft spot for Colin Tuft since the Orioles drafted him. He's in Frederick now. Last week he went 6 for 16, had a 375 average, one double, one triple, one home run, also 2 for 2 in stolen bases. So an 1162 OPS for the week. Solid week for Tuft. Fellow Virginian, a Nova kid, but I won't dock him too much for that. Still from the great Commonwealth of Virginia. Started his career at UVA, then Orioles drafted him out of Tulane, 8th round in 2024. And if you're familiar with, if any other Northern Virginia folks familiar with the baseball landscape up there, like Tuft has played for some amazing programs. Coming out of James Madison High School, which is like one of the top 30 high school baseball programs in the country. Shout out to Coach Gorman up there, a legend of the game. And then Tuft going to UVA, obviously fantastic coaching program there. And then Tulane with the Orioles have grabbed a lot of talent out of Tulane over the last couple of years. He's played a lot of positions. He plays catcher. He can play some infield spots. He plays some outfield spots. Some nights he shows a little bit more pop with the bat. Sometimes it's speed on the bases. He's probably never going to be a top 50 guy for us, and a lot of things are probably going to have to perfectly align for him to ever reach the big leagues, but I think this is a guy who's played for so many just elite coaches and elite programs throughout his career. I know his makeup coming into the draft, his makeup grades were off the charts, and so I think this is just a great guy to have in the system, and on the year, he's OPSing over 800, so shout out to Colin Tuft and his strong week. And on the pitching side, I'm going to stick in Frederick and go with Carson Dorsey. It's not been pretty this year for Dorsey, but Sunday I think was like a career best outing. He 6 innings, which was a career high, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, and he tied his career high with 8 strikeouts. He's done that once before. I wasn't the only one writing, is this the Carson Dorsey breakout year? Because I think a lot of people saw that Arizona Fall League data and were very intrigued. But we know it's a lot of control command issues with him. That delivery seems to be a fairly difficult one to kind of keep synced up there, but I don't know. I think you throw him in this mix with Sebastian Gongora, Caden Hunter, some other lefties in this tier of prospects down on the farm, and it's okay. He can do this. He showed us he can do this. Now, can they be more consistent? Can one of these guys that have these firm foundations, these good solid floors, can one of them really start to step up and kind of separate themselves? Hopefully, this is a jumping off point for Carson Dorsey, but really just the whole. You guys don't have Frederick pitchers on your list, do you? Look real quick. I don't think so. No. So just real quick, shout out to like the whole Frederick staff. JT Quinn went 5 shutout innings. That sucky fastball shape. Still pumping in high A. Twine Palmer looked great once again. And Boston Bateman, my inspiration for the article last week about guys who the surface level stats looked ugly, but a turnaround could be in the process. He went 6 shutout, no walks, 8 strikeouts, 2 hits allowed. So that entire group down there in Frederick, especially the pitching staff, keep doing what you're doing last week.
Good stuff. Yeah. Especially Colin Tuft. I know nobody wants to hear organizational filler in the same sentence as themselves, but I think he's like a half a step above that. I think he's a very valuable asset for an organization to have, where he can bounce around. He can play. I think he played center field as well at Tulane. Like he's an athlete. He's filling a lot of roles, and it's not gone unnoticed. I'm going to say for my hitter, it's Frederick Bencosme again. I think he had a really strong. He's pumping home runs out like you wouldn't believe. 5 home runs now on the season, an ISO of 243. His highest ISO before that was 126, which was last year. So he's really hitting the ball with a lot of authority. Double A's, at least the Eastern League, must have a pretty good offensive environment, because he has an 811 OPS and it's only a 99 WRC plus. I was not expecting that. So that was interesting to me. One thing I wanted to note was last year, obviously injuries and poor performance for Bencosme in Double A, but in 241 plate appearances last year, he had a 199 BABIP. That's really unlucky. And this season, it's still only 255. For a guy like him, it should be around 300. So if he's really filled out and he's added authority to his swing, we know his contact ability. He's walking as much as he ever has, 11%. Striking out a little more often than usual, 23.2% to date. But if he's going to translate that for power, I'll take it. He's playing outfield. We know he can play the infield. Just interesting, the evolution that he's going through right now. And for my pitcher, I'm going to shout out Gerald Ogando. I mean, a lot of our player interviews shout him out because he's apparently really tough to go up against. And I think we're finally starting to see that because we got some data in AAA. And actually, his surface level stats in AAA are great. No runs allowed in 7 2/3 innings. But it's a 4.55 FIP because he's walked as many as he's struck out, 8 strikeouts and 8 walks. That's very much not like him. But more importantly, the data that TJ Stats has on him is fantastic. It's a 5-pitch mix. His sinker grades at plus. His four-seam, which is 96, 97, grades as 65, so plus, not a double plus, but in between. Slider grades out as 64 plus, curveball 65 plus, and his cutter grades out as 78, which is elite. So, yeah, clearly the stuff is really good. Now we know why people didn't like to face him. He's got an elite cutter. He's got plus 4 other pitches. And also Ryan Long, Alex Pham, their stuff is really good as well, but the results are not there yet. But it's just fun when we start getting data on these guys that we've heard about over the years. So that's my picks.
Let's just go back to Dorsey for a moment. The first month and a half for him after he got off the IL last year at Delmarva was really rough. Couldn't seem to find his strike zone a lot of times. And then all of a sudden he got his command and never really slowed down. So I'm hoping that Sunday's outing represents a similar turning point for him here in 2026. I'll start with my hitter, and that's Jose Perez, who joined the Shorebirds on Friday and went on to have a really good weekend for his first 3 games of the 2026 season, going combined 4 for 12 with 3 triples, and he capped it all off on Sunday with a 3 for 4 performance that included 2 triples and a home run. Perez has been in the Orioles system for a while. He was signed by them back in January 2023 out of the Dominican Republic as part of their international free agent class that year. He did get a taste of Aberdeen and Chesapeake late last year, but for the most part has primarily played at the short season levels in his career. He'll turn 21 later on this month, so good opening weekend for Jose Perez down in Delmarva. And speaking of impressive debuts at a new level, Yaki Rivera had a phenomenal relief outing for the Norfolk Tides. On Saturdays, they faced Nashville. He was credited with the win as he went 3 1/3 innings, no runs allowed, 1 hit with 3 strikeouts to 1 walk. One of those strikeouts, by the way, coming against Jackson Churio, who was playing for Nashville in a rehab assignment. And it continues what has been a really good season for the right-hander so far. 24 strikeouts in 18 and two-thirds innings between AA and AAA this year. And looking at the footage and looking at the data, I think that Rivera's slider was excellent on Saturday. He mixed in the sinker. Fastball was running about 93, 94, but he was doing a great job of locating it. That's a pretty interesting pitch mix there. And I don't know going forward, does Rivera develop into one of those guys that maybe is a one-inning pitcher who pumps the fastball up a little bit, or does the pitch mix allow him to be a multi-inning reliever who maybe doesn't overwhelm you with the velocity, but the slider, the sinker, the fastball all work together in tandem in an effective way? So I called for Rivera's promotion a few weeks ago. I thought he was ready for AAA then, and Saturday's debut was hopefully a good sign of things to come. And with that, that does it for this episode. We will be back later on this week to discuss the beginning of the FCL season, as well as look back from the best prospect performances in April. In the meantime, you can check out our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon.com and sign up to become a member today at the $3, $5, or $10 levels and have access to bonus coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 prospects list. And by the way, our May list just dropped a few days ago, so if you get in now, you have a chance to listen to that, and you'll find out who our new number one prospect is. Because Samuel Basayo and Dylan Beavers graduated in April, so we've got a new number one. So check that out at Patreon.com. And of course, when you become a patron, you get access to the Patreon-exclusive channels within our very active Discord community as well. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You're listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.